Before we dive into the darkness that consumed these Reddit threads, I need you to do something for me. Hit that subscribe button, smash that like, because what you're about to hear will make you question everything you thought you knew about the people around you, the strangers who pass you on the street, the neighbors living just beyond your walls. Let me tell you something about the internet. It's a mirror, a reflection of humanity's deepest secrets, our darkest impulses, our most terrifying experiences. And Reddit? Reddit is where people come when they have nowhere else to turn. When reality becomes so twisted, so incomprehensible, that only strangers on the internet might believe them. What I'm about to share with you isn't fiction. These aren't creepypastas designed to give you a quick thrill before bed. These are real threads, real people, real horror unfolding in real time as thousands watched, commented, and tried desperately to help. Some of these stories ended in justice, others ended in tragedy, and some never ended at all. The screen you're staring at right now connects you to billions of people, but it also connects you to something else, something darker. The things people do when they think no one's watching, the secrets they keep locked behind closed doors, the obsessions that consume them until there's nothing left but the hunt. I've spent weeks researching these threads, reading through thousands of comments, tracking down updates that were buried years ago, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that what you're about to hear will change the way you see the world around you. So turn off the lights, lock your doors, check your windows, because we're about to explore the disturbing Reddit threads that broke the internet. Let me start with something that seems innocent enough. A new homeowner, a fresh start, the American dream, right? A user posted to Reddit with a simple problem. Objects in their house kept disappearing. Small things at first. An anti-mosquito device, a neck pillow. Things you might misplace on your own. Things you might forget where you put them. But then they started finding these objects behind the cupboard in the bedroom, crammed into spaces where they couldn't have fallen accidentally, places where they would have had to be deliberately placed. For 2 weeks, this continued. Items vanishing, items reappearing, an invisible hand rearranging their life. The poster did what any rational person would do in the modern age. They installed cameras, not expensive security systems, but a simple app on an old iPhone. One phone becomes the camera, another becomes the monitor. Basic, effective, terrifying. That night, while they slept, the app recorded 3 motion-activated events. The poster woke to a sound, a loud thud, something falling in the darkness. They searched the apartment, found nothing, went back to sleep, uneasy but exhausted. The next morning, they checked the footage. What they saw sent shivers down their spine. Now, here's where the story takes a turn. Because when the poster shared the images with Reddit, thousands of people looked at those grainy, low-light photos. Thousands of eyes searching for what had triggered the motion sensor. And most people saw nothing. Just a couch, a vase of flowers, the ordinary furniture of ordinary life. But some people saw something else, something in the shadows, a shape that didn't belong, the subtle wrongness of a room that should be empty but isn't. The comments exploded. Theories ranged from carbon monoxide poisoning causing hallucinations and memory loss to the horrifying reality that someone had been living in their walls, accessing their apartment while they slept, moving through their life like a ghost. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Someone could be in your home right now, in the crawl space, in the attic, behind the walls, and you would never know unless you caught them on camera, unless you woke up at just the right moment, unless you were lucky. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the disturbing threads of Reddit, make sure you're subscribed. Hit that notification bell, because these stories only get darker from here. And trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. Let's talk about home invasion, but not the kind you're thinking of. Not the violent break-in with smashed windows and stolen televisions. No, this is different. This is intimate. This is personal. A Reddit user started noticing something strange about their apartment. Objects disappearing. We've established that pattern. But this time, the cameras caught something undeniable. While the poster was sleeping, the motion sensors triggered. The timestamp showed the middle of the night. The darkest hours, when the world is supposed to be safe and still. The footage showed movement. Not a rat, not a cat, not a trick of the light. A person. Someone was in their apartment while they slept. The poster woke to investigate a sound. Searched the apartment. Found nothing, because by the time they were awake, moving, making noise, the intruder had already hidden, already pressed themselves into whatever dark corner they'd been using to observe, to wait. When the poster returned to sleep, exhausted and confused, the intruder emerged again. Think about that for a moment. Really think about it. Someone was in their home, watching them sleep, close enough to touch, close enough to hear them breathing. The Reddit thread exploded with advice. Call the police. Change the locks. Check for signs of entry. Install better cameras. Get a weapon. Stay with friends. But the most chilling comments came from people sharing their own experiences. People who had lived through similar nightmares. People who had discovered strangers living in their attics, their basements, their crawl spaces. One commenter shared a story about finding evidence that someone had been living in their garage for months. Blankets, food wrappers, personal items, a nest built from stolen belongings, hidden behind boxes in a corner they never checked. Another described finding a man living in their attic. He'd been there for 2 years. 2 years of living above a family, listening to their conversations, learning their schedules, existing in the dark space between their ceiling and their roof. How many people right now are living with someone they don't know about? How many strangers have made homes in the forgotten spaces of our lives? The original poster eventually called the police, filed a report, changed their locks, moved the furniture to block potential hiding spots, but they never felt safe again, never slept soundly, never stopped checking the cameras, never stopped wondering if someone was watching them even now. Because once you know it's possible, once you understand that the walls that protect you can also hide predators, you can never unknow it. Your home stops being a sanctuary. It becomes a cage, and you're trapped inside with the possibility of something worse. Now we need to talk about something that's going to make your skin crawl. We need to talk about the locked room. A man posted to Reddit about his girlfriend's house. They'd been together for 5 years. Solid relationship. Planning to move in together. Everything seemed perfect, except for one room. One door on the second floor with a padlock on the outside. Not a regular door lock. A padlock. The kind you use on storage units, on sheds, on things you want to keep people out of or keep people in. When he asked about it, his girlfriend brushed it off, said she didn't use that room, said it had stuff in it. Nothing important, nothing worth discussing. But he couldn't let it go, because who padlocks a room in their own house? Who lives with a space they never enter? Who treats part of their home like it doesn't exist? He pressed her about it, asked if they could use it for his office when he moved in, asked what was inside, asked why it was locked. She refused, became evasive, shut down the conversation. The Reddit thread filled with speculation, guns, drugs, stolen property, bodies. The imagination of the internet knows no bounds when faced with a mystery. Some commenters suggested it might be related to her work in law enforcement. Sensitive materials, evidence, things that needed to be secured. Others suggested something darker, abuse, trauma, a room that held memories too painful to face. The poster eventually confronted his girlfriend, told her he couldn't move in until he knew what was in that room, until he understood why it was locked. Make sure you're still with me here. Hit that like button if you're feeling the tension building, because what happened next is going to break your heart. His girlfriend broke down, completely shattered, sobbing so hard she couldn't speak. For 15 minutes, she couldn't form words, couldn't explain, could only cry with a grief so deep it seemed to have no bottom. When she finally found her voice, she told him the truth. The room was empty. There was nothing inside, no guns, no drugs, no evidence from work, just empty space and memories. She had bought the house when she was 19, young, inexperienced. It was a fixer-upper in a bad neighborhood, but it was hers, her first home, her fresh start. 3 weeks after moving in, someone broke into that room while she was inside. She was assaulted, violently, brutally. She had no money to move, no family nearby to help. So she bought a security system. She padlocked the door, and she made the decision to never enter that room again. For years, she lived in that house with a room she couldn't face, a space that held the worst moment of her life, a door she passed every day, locked and silent, containing nothing but the echo of trauma. That experience, that violation, that night drove her to join law enforcement, to help other people, to prevent what happened to her from happening to someone else. But she never unlocked that door, never went back inside, never confronted the empty space that held so much pain. The poster never asked to see the room after that, never needed to. Understanding what the lock was protecting changed everything. Sometimes the most disturbing things aren't what's behind the door. Sometimes it's why the door needs to be locked in the first place. We're going to shift gears now. We're going to talk about obsession, about the kind of fixation that turns a person into a predator. A young woman posted to Reddit about her job at a cannabis shop, legal state, legitimate business. She scanned IDs, processed sales, helped customers, normal work, normal life, until one customer started coming in every day. Same time, same small purchase, same intense eye contact that lasted too long. She was polite, professional, did her job, but something about this man made her uncomfortable. Something in the way he looked at her, the way he found excuses to talk to her, the way he seemed to memorize her schedule. Then he asked her out. She declined, politely, professionally. The way women have to navigate these situations, balancing rejection with the need to stay safe, He kept coming back, kept pushing, kept asking, kept staring. She remained firm, remained professional, remained increasingly uneasy. Then, one night, someone knocked on her door at 9:30. Knocked and knocked and knocked for 30 minutes straight. Persistent, aggressive, refusing to leave. She didn't answer. Stayed quiet, stayed hidden, stayed terrified. When she checked the security footage the next day, her blood ran cold. It was him, the customer from the shop, at her house, at her private residence that he should have no way of knowing about. He had followed her home, or researched her, or tracked her somehow, had discovered where she lived and decided to show up uninvited. She reported it to the police. They investigated, discovered he'd lied to them about why he was there, claimed she'd sold him gummies that made him high for 5 days. A ridiculous excuse, an obvious lie. The police allowed her to press harassment charges. He made bail with one condition. He had to stay away from her home and her workplace. For almost a month, she didn't see him, started to breathe easier, started to feel safe again. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Because this story is about to take a turn that will make you check every lock in your house. Then she saw him walking past her shop. Once, then twice. She locked the door, watched him from the window. He turned a corner. She thought he'd left. She unlocked the door, sat back down, tried to return to work. That's when he walked in, sat down in the waiting area, looked at her, used her name, her first name, like they were friends, like he had every right to be there. She told him to leave, calm at first, then screaming, reaching for the phone, calling the police while he sat there asking why, using her name over and over, acting like they had a relationship, like she was being unreasonable for calling the cops on him. He finally left. She locked the door, had a full panic attack, couldn't breathe, couldn't stop shaking, couldn't stop sobbing. The police arrested him, charged him with aggravated stalking, trespassing, and bond violation, put a GPS monitor on him, set up alerts if he came near her home or work. But the damage was done. Now she can't hear a doorbell without having anxiety, can't hear knocking on a television show without her heart racing, wakes up from nightmares of that sound. One person, one obsessed customer, one man who decided his feelings mattered more than her safety. And now she lives with PTSD, with the constant fear that he might come back, with the knowledge that someone out there fixated on her, obsessed with her, willing to violate court orders to get close to her. The retail workers in the comments shared their own stories. Customers who became stalkers, people who learned their schedules, people who followed them home, people who convinced themselves that politeness meant interest. The world is full of people who can't distinguish between fantasy and reality, who see what they want to see, who decide that another person belongs to them. And the worst part? We can't always see them coming, can't always predict who will cross that line from customer to threat. Let me share something with you that's going to seem bizarre, impossible even. But I need you to trust me when I tell you this is real. A Reddit user posted about finding something strange in their yard, in their fenced-off area where their dog played. Something that didn't belong, something that shouldn't exist in a suburban neighborhood. Organs, not animal organs scattered by a predator, not remains from roadkill dragged into the yard. intact organs, multiple organs, placed deliberately in their dog's pen. They posted photos. The images were disturbing, clearly recognizable as organs, large, fresh, unexplained. The poster was disturbed, confused, called the police. The cops told them it was probably an animal prank. Kids being kids, Halloween mischief, nothing to worry about. But the poster knew this wasn't normal. This wasn't a prank. This was something else. They installed cameras, checked with neighbors, tried to find answers. That's when another neighbor came forward, said the same thing had happened to them. Organs in their fenced dog pen. Multiple times. They'd also installed cameras, also called the police, also been dismissed. The neighbors shared their own photos. More organs, different location, same deliberate placement. Think about what this means. Someone was collecting organs, large organs, from sources unknown, and placing them in specific yards, in dog pens, behind fences, in spaces that should be private and safe. We're about halfway through these disturbing threads, and I need to remind you to like this video. Share it with someone who needs to understand that reality is stranger and more terrifying than any horror movie, because what comes next is going to test your belief in human decency. The Reddit thread, filled with theories, cult activity, satanic rituals, someone working in a slaughterhouse or butcher shop disposing of waste, a deranged individual collecting from multiple sources. But nobody could explain the pattern. Why these houses? Why dog pens specifically? Why intact organs rather than butchered remains? The original poster checked their property obsessively, reviewed camera footage, found nothing. Whoever was doing this knew how to avoid detection, knew when to strike, knew how to leave no trace except the organs themselves. One commenter suggested it might be a warning, a threat, the beginning of something worse. Another suggested it was a test, someone seeing if they could access private property without being caught. Others wondered if this was happening in more neighborhoods than just these two, if dozens or hundreds of people were finding organs and staying silent, too afraid of being labeled crazy, too uncertain about what they'd seen. The thread was posted 5 years ago. There has never been an update, no resolution, no explanation, no arrest. Those organs came from somewhere. Someone put them there. Someone is still out there. And maybe they never stopped. Now we need to discuss something that's going to make you angry. We need to talk about manipulation, deception, and death. A man posted to Reddit about his marriage, about his career, about his affair, about the web of lies that was about to destroy everything. He was having an affair with a younger woman who worked under him. 24 years old, his subordinate, his employee. He was married with a daughter. He thought he was in love, thought this was his second chance at happiness, thought he could manage the situation carefully and transition smoothly from one life to another. His wife discovered the affair, confronted him. He admitted everything, moved out of the house, started divorce proceedings. But then his mistress got sick, really sick, needed to go to the hospital, was deteriorating rapidly, and he made a choice. He decided not to take her, decided it wasn't convenient, decided his schedule mattered more than her health. She asked to be taken to the hospital. He suggested she ask a friend, dropped her off at that friend's place, went home to his separated wife's house. His mistress died from an ectopic pregnancy, a treatable condition, something that required immediate medical attention. The same medical attention he denied her, because it was inconvenient. Her family blamed him. His workplace blamed him. His wife blamed him. The internet blamed him. He lost his job, lost his reputation, lost his family. His wife refused to let him see his daughter, packed his bags, forced him out. And his response? His response to all of this? He said he felt no guilt. Let that sink in. A woman died because he didn't want to take her to the hospital, and he felt no guilt. He explained why, posted an update that made everything worse, revealed that his mistress hadn't actually loved him, that she'd been using him for money and a promotion, that her friends had screenshots of her laughing about manipulating him. So he decided her death didn't matter, that because she'd lied to him, he bore no responsibility for letting her die. Subscribe if you're feeling the rage building, because this story represents something deeply wrong with how some people view the world. This man destroyed his marriage for an affair, risked his career for a subordinate, betrayed his daughter's trust, and when consequences arrived, when his mistress needed him most, he abandoned her. Then, when confronted with her death, with his role in that death, he justified it by saying she hadn't really loved him anyway, as if love determines whether someone deserves medical care, as if manipulation justifies letting someone die. The comments tore him apart. Thousands of people explaining why he was wrong, why his logic was twisted, why his choices were indefensible. He never acknowledged their points, never showed remorse, never took real responsibility, just kept insisting he was the victim, that he'd been manipulated, that he was suffering unfairly. A woman died. A daughter lost her father. A career ended. A family shattered. All because one man couldn't see past his own desires long enough to be a decent human being. The thread stands as a monument to selfishness, to the way people can justify anything if they try hard enough, to the danger of someone who refuses to accept consequences for their actions. Let's talk about something that hits different, something that preys on our most primal fear as parents. A woman posted to Reddit about her pregnancy. She was 9 months along. First child. Excited, prepared, ready to start her family. Then someone claiming to be a social worker contacted her, said there were concerns about her husband's criminal record, an arrest from 11 years ago when he was a freshman in college, possession of marijuana. The social worker asked for documents, asked for information, asked for meetings, created mounting pressure as the due date approached. The poster was confused, but compliant. Authority figures investigating her family needed cooperation, right? She had nothing to hide, nothing to worry about. But something felt wrong. The social worker was aggressive, pushy, demanded things in ways that didn't quite make sense. She posted to Reddit's legal advice forum, asked if this was normal, if DCS typically investigated pregnant women with no other children. The responses shocked her. This wasn't normal. This wasn't how DCS operated. This didn't follow standard procedures. She needed to verify that this person was actually a social worker. She got a lawyer. The lawyer investigated, made phone calls, checked credentials. The woman claiming to be a social worker had no affiliation with DCS, no government employment, no legitimate reason to be contacting them. She was an imposter, a skilled liar, someone researching them, learning about them, preparing for something. Do you understand what I'm saying? Someone was pretending to be a government official to gain access to a pregnant woman and her soon-to-be-born child. This wasn't incompetence. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was predatory. This was planned. This was someone trying to steal a baby. Hit that like button if your blood just ran cold, because this is the nightmare that keeps parents awake at night. The poster went straight to the police. They took it seriously, launched an investigation. The details remained sealed because the case was ongoing. But the poster had to take precautions, had to stay with family, had to alert her doctor, had to inform the hospital about security measures, had to prepare to give birth while knowing someone out there had targeted her child. Think about how many people this imposter might have fooled, how many families might have handed over information, how many might have allowed this person into their lives, into their homes, into their trust. The comments revealed this wasn't unprecedented. Fake social workers exist. People impersonating authority figures to gain access to children. Predators who research vulnerable families and strike when they're most trusting. One commenter shared a theory that had been labeled a conspiracy. Except now, it didn't seem so far-fetched, didn't seem so impossible, because it was happening, really happening, to real people. The thread ended without closure. The baby was born. The family was safe, but the investigation continued. And somewhere out there, a person who tried to steal a child remained unidentified. How many others are doing the same thing? How many imposters are operating right now? How many families are being targeted? Trust, but verify. Always verify, especially when someone claims authority over your family. We're in the final stretch now, but I need you to stay focused, because the last few threads are going to leave you questioning everything. Let me tell you about the girlfriend with the photos, the hidden folder, the obsession that crossed every line. A 21-year-old man was dating a 24-year-old woman. New relationship, only 5 weeks in. Still in that honeymoon phase where everything feels exciting and possible. He stayed over at her apartment, near his college campus, convenient, comfortable, normal. He needed to use her laptop, something simple, something she'd offered. No reason to think twice about it. That's when he found the folder, hidden, labeled with something innocent, but containing hundreds of photos of him, candid shots, photos he didn't know existed, images taken without his knowledge or consent, from multiple angles, multiple locations, multiple situations, hundreds of them. She had been photographing him constantly, secretly, building a collection of images that documented his life without his awareness. He confronted her. She broke down, confessed that she'd been doing it for weeks, since before they started dating, that she'd been watching him, following him, capturing moments he thought were private. The Reddit thread exploded with concern. This wasn't romantic. This wasn't flattering. This was stalking. This was obsessive behavior. This was a violation of consent and privacy. Commenters urged him to leave, to document everything, to take the evidence seriously, to understand that someone who would do this was capable of worse. Think about how many photos she took, how much time she spent watching him, how many moments she invaded without permission. 5 weeks of dating, but weeks or months of stalking beforehand, learning his schedule, learning his habits, learning everything about him before making her move. This is predatory behavior. This is obsession. This is the kind of thing that escalates. She didn't see it that way. In her mind, she loved him. In her mind, this was devotion. In her mind, she was collecting memories. But love requires consent. Devotion requires respect. And collecting someone's image without permission isn't romance, it's possession. The poster never updated the thread, never told us if he left, never confirmed if he took the advice. But somewhere out there, that folder probably still exists. Those photos are still stored. That obsession still burns. And maybe she found someone new to photograph, someone new to watch, someone new who doesn't know they're being cataloged. We've reached the end of this journey through disturbing Reddit threads. We've explored home invasions, stalkers, locked rooms, mysterious organs, manipulative affairs, impostor social workers, and obsessive documentation. But before we finish, I need you to understand something. These threads represent real people experiencing real horror. These aren't creative writing exercises. These aren't fictional narratives designed to entertain. These are cries for help, pleas for understanding, attempts to make sense of the incomprehensible. Every single one of these people went to Reddit because they had nowhere else to turn. Because their reality had become so twisted that only strangers on the internet might believe them. Some found help. Some found answers. Some found justice. Others found only more questions, more fear, more uncertainty. The internet connects us, but it also reveals us, shows us what people are capable of when they think no one's watching, when they believe they can get away with something, when they decide their desires matter more than someone else's safety. We've seen people living in walls. We've seen obsession destroy lives. We've seen manipulation justify death. We've seen imposters prey on families. We've seen trauma lock doors that can never be opened. But we've also seen communities rally, seen strangers offer advice, seen people support each other through the darkness. Reddit is a mirror. And what we see in that mirror depends on where we look. These threads broke the internet because they forced us to confront uncomfortable truths. To acknowledge that horror doesn't just exist in movies and books. It exists in suburban homes and city apartments. It exists in locked rooms and hidden folders. It exists in the obsessions of people who look completely normal. The person sitting next to you on the bus could be hiding something terrible. The neighbor who waves hello could be accessing your home while you sleep. The customer who comes in every day could be planning something sinister. We can't know. We can't see into their minds. We can't predict who will cross the line from normal to nightmare. All we can do is stay vigilant, trust our instincts, lock our doors, check our cameras, believe people when they tell us something feels wrong. Because sometimes the only thing standing between safety and disaster is the willingness to take a gut feeling seriously. If you made it this far, you need to do 3 things. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss future deep dives into the disturbing corners of the internet. Like this video to help it reach more people who need to understand these realities. And comment below with your thoughts, your experiences, your own stories, because we're all navigating this strange, connected, terrifying world together. And the more we share, the more we understand, the more we support each other, the safer we all become. Stay alert, stay safe, check your locks, trust your instincts, and remember that the most disturbing threads aren't the ones we read on Reddit. They're the ones still being written in real time, in someone's home, in someone's life, in situations that haven't been discovered yet. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of this community that refuses to look away from uncomfortable truths. This has been a deep dive into disturbing Reddit threads that broke the internet. And I'll see you in the next investigation into the darkness that lurks just beneath the surface of everyday life. Stay safe out there.